It's great to talk to you, John Scully. It's been a long time since we first met. Can you tell me about your own professional boxing career?
Well, I had 49 pro fights. I fought for the world title against Henry Maskey in Germany, light heavyweight title. But I fought middleweight, super middleweight, and light heavyweight. Probably super middleweight was probably my better weight, but I was able to get a title fight at 175. And I sparred quite a few guys as a pro, good fighters, Roy Jones, James Toney, Mike McCallum, Vinny Pazienza, guys like that. And, I fought pro for about 13 years and, I have no complaints. I had a pretty good career, got to travel, got to give my shot at the world. And, I have to live with that. I'm good with that.
Also, it's life, we all, you can only live the best career you can. Something I want to ask you is how much has boxing changed since sort of the 1980s, 1990s? I think it was much better then. Obviously, these days we have a lot of problems. What can you tell us about that?
Well, I mean, there's several things that are, very, very different and not in a good way. One is there's not as many fighters. It's just the talent pool, the pool in general is much less. I mean, there's less fighters, and it's easy to see. It's documented. I mean, for example, I always tell people that, like, this is a perfect example. When I first started boxing in Hartford, just in my city, there were 4 gyms. And they were all packed. There was, if you were a welterweight, just 147 pounds, not middleweight, not heavyweight, not bantamweight, just welterweight. You had probably 20 guys that you could box with and spar with, just in the city. 20 guys: Marlon Starling, Roy Wortham, Michael Bell, Papa Figueroa, Kumba Valentine. I mean, just tons of them. Right now, 0. There's not one welterweight in the city of Hartford as a pro. There's nobody. So that's indicative of what it's like. The talent pool has depleted and decreased tremendously over the years. When I was coming up, there was 2 world champions, WBA, WBC. That's it. There was a chance for unification, like Donald Curry and Milton McCrory and Tommy Hearns and Ray Leonard. They unified the titles. Now, it's horrible. Like, I literally despise the way boxing is run. I mean, I grew up loving the WBC. Everybody wanted to be a WBC champion. Now you have, WBC silver champion, emeritus champion, youth champion. I mean, I don't even know what that means. I have no idea what these titles mean. You can't, it's like, I could say I met welterweight champions. I met Tommy Hearns. I met Roberto Duran. I met Sugar Ray Leonard. I met Milton McCrory, Donald Curry. These guys were welterweight champions. Now, if I meet a guy and he's a WBC silver champion, I don't know. Is he the champion? Did I meet a welterweight champion? I don't know. I have no idea if I could include him on the list or not. I have no idea. And the fact that I don't have an idea is insane. Like, it's insane.
Of course.
I'm in the game and I don't know if this guy is a world champion. Like, if I meet a guy, and I don't follow football, American football, but if a guy wins the Super Bowl, he's on the Super Bowl team, well, he's the champion. They're the champions. You know it.
Yes.
There's no other guys going, no, but our team is the silver champion, emeritus. It's insane. So I despise, like, I like to say, I've kept track. In my life, I've met, I believe, 38 recognized heavyweight champions, going all the way back to Floyd Patterson, Muhammad Ali. I met these guys. Now, I don't know. Do I count, a guy that's the regular champion, but Tyson Fury's the champion? I mean, I can't count that. Like, even though you have the belt, I can't say I met the heavyweight champ. because you're not Tyson Fury. I mean, like, if you're not Tyson Fury, you're not the champion of the WBA. I mean, it's just, it's
Yes.
bizarre. So I hate it. And probably one of the biggest problems is if I was to explain to a guy, if a friend of mine came to me and said, hey, man, I'm interested, you've been boxing a long time. I'd love to follow that sport. What do I do? I couldn't even tell him, because if he said, who's the heavyweight champ? I'd have to go talk for an hour explaining to him, instead of taking 1 second and going, Tyson Fury. I'd have to go, well, Tyson Fury, but there's another guy and he's got the same belt. And if I tried to explain that, they would stop me and go, never mind. I don't want to follow boxing. I don't even care now. So, that boxing has changed. It's getting, people always say it's a business, and it is. But now, more than ever, it's a business. You get guys, back in the day, I used to listen to guys like Sugar Ray Robinson, Joe Louis, Archie Moore. Now, Archie Moore fought Rocky Marciano for the title. Now, Archie Moore was a light heavyweight. He stepped up to heavyweight. He fought Moore. Fought Marciano. Famous thing is he was getting beat pretty good. He had dropped Marciano early in the fight, but he was starting to get wore down. And the referee came to him in the corner and said, I think I'm gonna stop the fight. He's threatening to stop the fight. And Moore, as the legend has it, said to him, listen, I'm a champion too. Let me go out like one. Let this play out. Yes. And the guy had to respect it. He let it happen. Guys today throw the belts in the garbage. They give it up not to fight people. Can you imagine? Like, back in that day, that doesn't register. But these guys, instead of fighting a certain guy, they'll give up the championship of the world because they know they're going to get a shot at some other title, because there's 10 of them available. So, back in the day, it was rare. Now everybody gets a shot, so it's different. It's different. The elite is not recognizable anymore. We don't know who the elite is, because we have guys that are 3- and 4-time world champions, and nobody even knows who they are. They've never heard of them. They're not household names. Imagine having 3 or 4 championship belts, and the average sports fan doesn't even know who you are. That's where we're at today.
That was a very, very good speech. I really enjoyed that. Not even boxing. If you look at any other area in life, going on from what you're saying, people have got ranks and positions. You've got, obviously in America, you've got the police, you know who the sheriff is, you know who the commissioner is. America, you know who the president of the United States is. It's Biden. You haven't got 10, 20 different presidents. Imagine if you did. If you look at the Romans had one emperor. And if you look at other sports, in what we call soccer, you have the Champions League, you have the Premiership, and at the end of every season, you know who the best in the sport is. But as you said, in boxing, same with me, I don't even know who half these people are. I think I've got good boxing knowledge. I know what you said about Archie Moore. I've seen that fight. I mean, I remember when Ezra Charles broke Marciano's nose, and Marciano managed to get through that and win the fight. And that's something else I want to discuss. I think a lot of fighters, you don't see that same mentality anymore. Look at Muhammad Ali. Look at this guy was desperate. They told him Liston's going to kill you. Listen, he chased Liston down, chased him casino to casino, bear hunting, he called it. And he put pressure. He made the fight happen, beat Liston twice. And, you can, all sorts of stories. Archie Moore, correct me if I'm wrong. I think Archie Moore went to Floyd Patterson's house. Is that the one I'm thinking? I think it was.
I believe, if I remember correctly, but it was very cordial, very friendly, but that's how it was back then. Like, other than Ali, these guys were gentlemen. They went and said, hey, like I've read where Ray Robinson and Archie Moore discussed maybe Ray moving up and fighting him, and and they talked about the terms of the fight, and it wasn't crazy trash talking, and Ali brought that in. But he brought that in a fun, good-natured way. And now people have taken it where the next step is going to be someone's going to pull a gun at a weigh-in, and threaten to shoot the guy. It's going to get to that level at some point. So, yeah, I would say in many ways we're devolving. We're not evolving. We're devolving, and it's not a good thing.
But this is what I was actually going to say. I think things can change in boxing. I think people like you and me can change it because, okay, I'll give you a quick example. So when I first met you, that was when I was 21. I've sparred you, I'll say you went easy on me. I sparred Brandon Rios, I sparred Kelly Pavlik. I'm trying to come back now. I've sparred Kell Brook recently. But what I'm trying to explain, but when I've approached all these people, including yourself, but I've been polite about it. Obviously, I understand that I'm talking to a bigger, stronger man who much more experienced than me, but I don't say any rubbish. I just ask politely, and I've made those sparring sessions happen. This is something I think hopefully. So like what I'm saying with Archie Moore, when he's had dinner with Floyd Patterson and he's met, I think him and Ray Robinson, they've met each other's wives. Do you think this is something we can try and encourage in boxing? Because when you see Errol Spence and Crawford sort of meeting up in a public place, look, they're at a boxing show and they're just talking back and forth. Why don't more boxers just take 10 minutes, talk in private, sort your business out, and just get the fight on? Do you think this is something we can try and change in boxing?
See, you'd have to change society. You'd have to change the way these kids grow up. The mentality. The mentality today is mean, tough, stand your ground, talk crazy, talk big, talk big stuff. A guy today with the mentality of the other guys, the old time guys, would be great. But because they were gentlemen, the way they talked, people wouldn't take them seriously. That's why, like Andre Ward, as classy as he is, a lot of people didn't gravitate to him because he wasn't a big mouth. He didn't talk crazy. He didn't say, wild things. He just produced. People don't want just results. They want a show. They want a show. They want big mouth. Oh, did you hear what he said? Who cares what he said? It matters what he does. But people don't care about that. They like the big mouth stuff. And
okay,
let me say one thing. Let me say one thing.
Please.
When me and you sparred, that's one of the craziest stories I've ever. It's awesome. If I ever finish my book, I'm going to put that in there. What you did to come spar me, I wouldn't have believed that in a million years. If somebody told me somebody would do that to go spar, you were going to spar with Chad. Remember?
Of course,
yeah. Spar with Chad, and what you did to make that happen is mind-boggling. Like, you wanted to spar, and I respect that because I might be the only other person on earth who would have done something like that. It's me and you. We're the only two that might have done that. So I give you a lot of credit, man. You really love boxing. I can vouch for you 100%.
That's right. I mean, look, I sort of left boxing alone for a few years because it's a difficult sport, getting hit in the head. But as I think I'm a very bright guy, and my mentality at that time, and even this time, I met Amir Khan recently. I almost sparred him, but he had to go to America the next day. So that was the only issue. But it's an approach where it's not even boxing, but in society, people don't really have that mentality. And to me, the way I approach people, but I'm just polite about it. I'm not going to come up to a former boxer and I'm half your age, I think I can beat you up. I'll just try and see if you've got time, and I'll just ask you politely. But I think these are sort of initiatives we need to see in boxing. So tell us, from your point of view, I think I've got decent knowledge. Who do you think are some of the greatest fighters of all time? I mean, we've mentioned quite a few. Archie Moore, we've mentioned Robinson. Who would you say is some of the greatest fighters of all time?
Well, people are always going to say Sugar Ray Robinson, Muhammad Ali, those type of guys. But, you have guys like Billy Conn, tremendous light heavy, tremendous skill.
He can run, but he can't hide.
Yeah, right. Tremendous skills. Ezra Charles, Jersey Joe Walcott. I mean, there's so many guys that don't get mentioned. Archie Moore doesn't get as much mention as he should. Sugar Ray Leonard, even though he only had like 36 fights, whatever he had. Sugar Ray Leonard, in some ways, did as much as guys who had 80 fights. The quality of guys he beat, he didn't have a ton of fights, but the quality of people he beat is on par with any legend ever. Like, you take any guy and give me his 4 best wins, Sugar Ray Leonard's right there with him. And I mean, anybody, Ali, Robinson, whoever you want to name, Sugar Ray Leonard's top 4 wins are right there with all of them. So, I think, like I say, guys like Ezra Charles, even I've been reading more about guys like Charlie Burley. And, I've read what Archie Moore has said about Charlie Burley and guys like that. Tremendous, tremendous fighters. Harry Greb, the record that this guy had. I mean, he equaled Floyd Mayweather's whole career, like in 14 months. Like he was like 53-0 or something in that same span. Took Floyd 20 years. Took this guy like 14 months to reach the same numbers. And he beat, I don't know if they said it was like 11 Hall of Famers that Harry Greb beat. So there's a lot of guys out there. I always say this. People say, who's the top 10 best fighters? There's no room in the top 10 for the top 10 best fighters because there's 40 guys that could be in the top 10. You have to leave guys out that should or could be in the top 10, and they'd be in someone else's top 10. So, it's 40 guys you could choose from just to make a top 10.
Okay, some great names you've mentioned. Greb, famous sparring session with Jack Dempsey, and obviously he beat Gene Tunney in a fight, which Dempsey couldn't do. Tell us about some of the fighters you're working with, and what kind of mentality are you trying to instill in them?
Every fighter I work with, whether it's an amateur, whether it's a 10-year-old kid or anybody, the mentality has to be all or nothing. I'll give an example. I'll give you a perfect example.
You go on.
Here's a perfect example. If a guy is sparring and he gets cut, right? He's got a cut right here. Now he's bleeding and everything. I'm not gonna let him keep going because I'm not gonna let the cut get worse and everything. But I want him to beg me to keep going. I want him to say, no, don't stop it, let me go. That's the mentality I want. I remember I was training Ray Oliveira. If you remember Ray Oliveira, Super Ray Oliveira.
I've heard of it, yeah.
He held the record. He holds the record for most punches in a fight. Like him and Vince Phillips threw over 3,000 punches in one fight. 3,000 punches.
Wow, that's ridiculous, yeah.
Oh, no, Ray throws a lot of punches. So I trained him for a couple fights, and we go back as amateurs. And I remember he was sparring one time, and he was older at the time. He had aches and pains and whatever. And I believe it was his shoulder or his hip or something. He was sparring, and all of a sudden, I think his shoulder went out. And he's like screaming. And I'm like, all right, we're going to stop. We're going to say, no. And he's like screaming at me, no, let me go. And I understood it. And I had to let him keep sparring. And he's trying to punch, and he's literally crying. It was the craziest thing. And he's crying. And everybody's like, man, you got to stop this. I go, man, I'm on the fence because I understand where he's at. Like, if I stop it right now, him and I are going to fight. He's going to fight with me, And so he went like one more round. I said, Ray, come on, man. That's it. Like, you proved your point. I understand you, but so he stopped. But my point is, most people would go, all right, yeah, I'm done. My arm hurts, and they don't want to challenge it. I respect the guy I say, I don't know if I said it before, but I say it like this. If you get cut, I want you to beg. I want you to tell me, no, don't stop it. Don't stop it. Now I'm going to stop it. I'm not going to let you spar with a cut, but I want you to tell me you don't want to stop, because that's how I was. I was, especially when I was like amateur, I can remember getting cut. I would never stop on a cut. I would want to keep sparring because I would want to get the guy back and I wouldn't want to have to wait 2 weeks to do it. I want to get him back right there, you know? So that was my mentality. So I'm looking for that kind of mentality. You know, I have guys do different drills, different tough drills, and they're very tiring, very stressful. And I want to see how they react to that fatigue. You know, some guys get really tired and they go, all right, yeah, I'm tired, I'm done. I don't want that. I want a guy that's going to get mad and emotional and try to finish it. So mentality will take you a long, long ways. It could make a good fighter much better. He could do better than his ability should allow him to do, just because he's got that type of mentality.
And I completely agree. Do you remember the story about when Muhammad Ali sparred? Let me try and think. You remember when he went up to see Angelo Dundee in his hotel room?
Yeah,
When he was at
right, yeah.
There's
And
a
he
few
sparred,
stories.
I think, Willie Pastrano, right?
That's the one.
Yeah,
And Angelo Dundee says he felt that Ali handled him, and he was shocked. And then
yeah. I think. Well, and they tried to make Pastrano feel better. They said, oh, you know, you're just a little tired. And Pastrano said, nah, that kid beat me up. That kid's good. That kid's really good. So Pastrano knew what happened.
And then there was the other sparring session when he took on Ingemar Johansson, and
Right.
it's just common sense. If you're in a sport like boxing, all this thing you're saying about the cut, the way I would phrase it, but it's a fight. And if you're in a sparring session and I'm cut now, but what happens when you're in a fight? Because mentally you're going to have that same approach. So I'd say, yeah, I agree. I think the trainer should be the one to say enough sparring for today. But I think the fighter, I mean, it's not just a cut, is it? I mean, you've boxed. It could be anything. You could get hit any place it hurts, but mentally, you've still got to be willing to continue. Because if you're not,
Right.
go look at what happened when Joe Fraser fought. Joe Fraser fought. Well, I was about to say George Foreman, but I think Thriller Manila. That's a better example, where both those guys were willing to push through.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Right.
I'll ask you a brief question about. We've already sort of spoken about the problems in boxing. I haven't been to any of the conventions in years. I'm going to start going. I met Jose Sullivan before, Mauricio, the son. Yeah, he's a nice man. But I think the problem is there's a lot of people in boxing who don't really understand boxing. And when I get the chance, I want to try and talk to Mauricio Sullivan and start trying to get him to change his mind. Try and explain to him when you got all these, as you said, diamond, interim, and so on. And so if I go to a restaurant, I just want to talk to the waiter. I don't care who it is, whether it's a waiter or a waitress. So imagine if they come out and they say, I'm not going to give you your order, it's that person. Well, I'm like, who am I? Who's taking my order? You just want a simple. So I think it's the same thing with boxing. So this is the question I'm trying to come to. When you're talking to these kind of people, how are these conversations? What are they like? I mean, do people listen to, do they listen to sense? Because right now, boxing, it's like there's very little common sense in the way it's being run.
Right. Well, I think, like a guy like Mauricio Sullivan, it's a multi-million-dollar business. They've got their reasons for doing things, and it's not just black and white. It's not cut and dry. So I could give them or him the opinion and the view of me, of a boxing person, as a fan, as somebody who cares about the history going forward. But with him being in the business, and it's a business for him, making money, they don't see it that way, because if they do it the way it's supposed to be, they're going to make millions and millions of dollars less on sanctioning fees and things like that. So they say money's the root of all evil. And if too many sanctioning, too many belts are evil, the root of it is the money that goes with them.
Okay. I'll see how it goes. I haven't met him in years. And obviously, when I talk to him, see what happens. But last question I have for today. What are your sort of goals outside of boxing? So obviously we're both working on books. I've started writing a book myself. What are your sort of goals outside of training fighters?
I've been doing some personal training with with just regular people that like boxing and want to work out. I think one day I'd like to open my own gym, but it would be boxing, but also for a part of the time it would be just fitness for regular people, women, housewives, and kids, and who just want to get in shape using a boxing workout. So I think ultimately that's probably where I'll end up one day. That'll be my livelihood, so to speak.
Okay, that's good to hear. All right, I'll stay in touch. I look forward to seeing that, and hopefully, if this whole COVID ends, I should be seeing you at one of the conventions.
Yeah. I love the WBC convention, boy. Yeah, I've been to the one in Mexico, Las Vegas. That's a great week for sure.
Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of these people in years now. I've met Foreman and I met Don King at those before, so hopefully I get to go next year.
Yeah. Well, if you do, maybe I'll see you there.
That'd be great, John. But it was a pleasure talking to you, and I appreciate your time.
All right, buddy. Yes, sir.
Take care.